Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. I'm Mike.
And I'm Elsie. Yesterday, we talked about some places that tourists might like in Ho Chi Minh City.
That's right. We're visiting Ho Chi Minh City, formerly known as Saigon, the largest city in the southern part of the country of Vietnam. It used to be the capital of South Vietnam.
Yes.
Right? And then they had the Vietnam War and the North won. Now it's all one country, and that's when they changed the name from Saigon to Ho Chi Minh City. For those of you who don't know, Ho Chi Minh was kind of like the Sun Yat-sen of Vietnam.
像他们的国父.
Yeah, he's the kind of
like
he's
the
the guy
founding
who,
father.
Yeah, he's the founding father, the George Washington or whatever. So they, named a city after him, which makes sense. Anyway, so yeah, we talked about the Bitexco Financial Tower, the tallest building in the city, and also Cafe Apartment, an apartment building that's been changed into just a bunch of different little private cafes. You can go to all of them, and they're all decorated in a unique style. So, we've seen the city from a great height. We've filled ourselves with wonderful Vietnamese coffee, which is very creamy and sweet. Now we got to keep doing stuff.
Yeah, are these the only places that we can go to in Ho Chi Minh City?
Heck no, there's tons of other places to go, and that's what we're going to be checking out today.
Plan a fun trip to Ho Chi Minh City.
Binh Tay Market. You can find anything from cute clothes to delicious food here. It also has better prices than the city's other popular markets. Visit it for a cool local experience. War Remnants Museum. This history museum has exhibits on Vietnam's wars with America and France. There are military planes and many photos here. Some of the photos show the terrible effects of Agent Orange. The museum hopes to open people's eyes to the horrors of war. When you consider these great places, you realize Ho Chi Minh City is a great city for everyone to visit. Keep these places in mind for an exciting future trip there.
Price. The price of this bottle of water is 20 NT dollars. The price of this bottle of water is 20 NT dollars. Museum. The big museum has a lot of famous paintings. The big museum has a lot of famous paintings. Terrible. On my way to school this morning, I saw a terrible car accident. On my way to school this morning, I saw a terrible car accident. Consider. Rick considers things carefully before he chooses anything. Rick considers things carefully before he chooses anything.
All right, so the article begins by telling us the name of another place to check out. So this is the third place. We've gotten a good recommendation on Binh Tay Market. Binh Tay Market. Yeah, it's not a great Asian city without a great market. You gotta go to the market, see all the wonderful food, eat some of the wonderful food, and lots of good bargains to find. As the article says, you can find anything from cute clothes to delicious food here. Bring your wallet, make sure it's filled with money, and then spend that money and leave Binh Tay Market with a full belly and shopping bags banging against your legs. Sounds like a great way to begin our second day.
在我们今天的文章一开头呢，我们看到一个字是 anything 任何东西 anything from A to B 就代表的是从 A 到 B 的一切事物，所以在平息市场里面呢，从可爱的衣服到好吃的食物，一切应有尽有。 Are the things cheap or expensive in the market?
Good question. Well, I would say they're pretty cheap, but let's check out what the article says. It also has better prices than the city's other popular markets. Oh, okay. Kind of like in Taipei and many other cities, there's more than one market, but the Binte gets our recommendation because it has better prices than the city's other popular markets. Better prices generally means lower prices, unless you like spending more money. But for most people, a lower price is a better price. And when we talk about price, we're talking about a noun, and a noun that is spelled P-R-I-C-E, price. It's basically how much money you have to pay for something. So if you go to a store and there's a little sticker and it says $100 on it, $100 is the price of the thing that you are looking at. That's how much money you have to pay to get it. So, of course, lower prices means you spend less money. For example, the price of this bottle of water is 20 NT dollars. The price of this bottle of water is 20 NT dollars.
Price 这个名词是价格，那例句说这瓶水的价格是新台币20元。我们要怎么样形容价格的高低呢？我们可以用 high 或者是 low 这两个形容词来形容。A high price 就是高价， a low price 就是低价啦。那如果我们不是要形容 price 价格，我们是要直接形容东西的时候，那便宜的东西我们会说 cheap， 那贵的我们就形容 expensive， 所以我们可以说 a cheap thing 或者是an expensive thing.
All right, so next we are given a very good tip. It says visit Binte Market for a cool local experience. So this might be one of the markets that has has fewer tourists than some of the others, but that's good. The prices will be lower, and you'll get, as it says, a cool local experience. A local experience is something that's not quite what all the tourists do. You know, for example, Taipei, if you bring a foreign visitor to Din Tai Fung and then to the Gugong and then to the top of 101. Well, that's cool, but it's not a local experience. Most local people here do not go to Din Tai Fung every day or go to the Gugong every day. If you take them to a night market, have a bowl of Nyoro Mien at just a street side place, take them to karaoke or something like that on a U-bike, that might be a bit more of a local experience. That's the kind of thing that local people do a bit more than visiting 101 and museums and things like that. So the Binte Market, you'd be surrounded by a lot of Vietnamese people. It wouldn't be such a tourist kind of way. But the next place is a place you would probably want to go to, but there would be more tourists there.
所以呢，我们刚刚讲到的这个平息市场呢，你在那边可以有一个很酷的在地经验。So what's the next place you just mentioned?
Well, it's the War Remnants Museum. Yes, it's a museum, but it's a museum about war. So there'll be guns and planes and tanks and cool stuff like that. If you don't like war, maybe you don't want to go. But it is a big part of Vietnam's history. That war that they fought against the U.S. from approximately 1965 to 1973. The war ended in 1975. It was a very long war, and it really, destroyed the country. But Vietnam won the war. That's right. They beat the Americans, basically, and it's part of their national history and, a source of some national pride for many people. And the War Remnants Museum will have a lot of the equipment and weapons and things like that shows the history. It says this history museum has exhibits on Vietnam's wars with America and France. Yeah, they fought France from the 1950s to the 60s, and then America took over and continued fighting, but neither of those two powerful countries could win the war. So that's why they built a museum to sort of remember all of this long and terrible history, which, of course, brings pride to people as well, too, in some ways. Museum is a place that you go to visit that with lots of cool, old, interesting, and important things. Museum is spelled M-U-S-E-U-M. It's a noun. It's a building, generally, where you will find lots of old, historical, scientific, sometimes artistic things. There's many different types of museum. That's why we usually say it's a history museum, it's an art museum, it's a war museum, it's a toy museum. There's museums for almost anything you can possibly imagine, but the things in the museum are important, valuable, interesting, something like that, and they keep them so people can go and look at them and learn stuff about the past, for example. We could say the big museum has a lot of famous paintings. The big museum has a lot of famous paintings. I'm going to guess that would be an art museum.
Yeah, 艺术博物馆 You are right. Museum 这个字就是博物馆的意思啦。那例句说啊，这间大型的博物馆里面呢，珍藏了许多知名的画作。那回到文章呢，这边介绍到战争遗迹博物馆有越南和美国以及法国战争时候的 exhibit， 就是展示品。
For example, we read there are military planes and many photos here. So you can see airplanes, maybe inside or parked outside, some of the planes that were used back in the wars that they fought. So that's interesting. And many photos, a lot of pictures of, soldiers and fighting and the effects of the war and things like that. Not always a happy place, but an important and an interesting place nonetheless.
那里呢，展出 military planes 就是军机和许多的照片。I visited the museum when I was there. The planes were cool to see, and the photos made me think a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. War does make you think a lot about how terrible it is and the awful things that people can do to each other. But of course, also the bravery of the people who lived through that time is something that should be recognized and celebrated as well. Some of the photos would be difficult to look at. Absolutely. War is a difficult subject. It says some of the photos show the terrible effects of Agent Orange. Ooh, yes, the terrible effects of Agent Orange. Agent Orange is not a person. It's a chemical that the U.S. government sprayed on the jungles of Vietnam. It killed the plants so that the U.S. could see where the enemy soldiers were. They couldn't hide under the leaves of the jungle trees. But of course, it caused terrible effects, especially birth defects and cancers on people, and still does today. It's one of those great crimes of history that has never been fully recognized. But when you poison people, that is a terrible thing to do. Terrible is an adjective. It's spelled T-E-R-R-I-B-L-E. T-E-R-R-I-B-L-E. It's really, really bad. It's horrible. It's awful. It's something absolutely just horrific. It's really, really bad, basically. If something is terrible, it's really, really not good. It's very, very bad. For example, on my way to school this morning, I saw a terrible car accident. On my way to school this morning, I saw a terrible car accident. This gives us the idea that people were definitely hurt. It wasn't just two cars kind of bumped into each other and a light got broken. It means both cars maybe crashed into a tree at a high speed. Really, really bad.
Terrible 这个形容词呢是可怕的。那例句说啊，我今天早上上学途中目击一场可怕的车祸。那文章中说到的 terrible effects 可怕的影响是什么样的影响呢？有一些照片显示出啊Agent Orange 橙剂所导致的可怕影响。橙剂呢是美军在越南对抗在丛林当中活动的越共所使用的除草剂，那对人体呢是有很大的伤害，会导致严重的后遗症。The chemical Agent Orange was widely used by the U.S. military during the Vietnam War, which was very bad for humans' health.
Yes, the war was bad. The Agent Orange was bad. It was bad for everyone all together. And it says the museum hopes to open people's eyes to the horrors of war, okay? The horrors of war, it's kind of the terrible effects of war, the terrible consequences of war. The land gets destroyed, people get killed, people on both sides get killed, and people on both sides who don't get killed, they come back and they're never quite the same because they've seen terrible things. They've seen the horrors of war.
To open somebody's eyes to something 代表的是使某人了解看清某事。那博物馆这边希望的是呢，让人们了解 the horrors of war 战争的可怕。
All right, so when you consider these great places, we next read, you realize Ho Chi Minh City is a great city for everyone to visit. Yeah, so we're getting to the end of the article. We're kind of wrapping things up. And it says, when you consider these great places, the four that we've mentioned, and of course there are other great places, but when you think about all of these cool and interesting and important things, you realize that Ho Chi Minh City, or you realize Ho Chi Minh City is a great city for everyone to visit. You might think, well, I don't know much about Vietnam, and I don't really know I don't know if I like the food. Well, if you go there, trust us, you're going to have a great time. You're going to see some cool things. The food's great, and it really should be thought of. Ho Chi Minh City may not be as famous as Paris or Hong Kong or London, but it's a great city for everyone to visit. So that's when you consider it. When you consider, this verb is spelled C-O-N-S-I-D-E-R. To consider is basically to think carefully about things, especially after you've had some time to think about it. So you think about them carefully. You spend a little bit of time making a good decision by being, sure to have all of the important facts in mind, all right? So you consider things, and then you decide, then you choose, then you think a certain way. For example, Rick considers things carefully before he chooses anything. Rick considers things carefully before he chooses anything. That's why it takes him 10 minutes to order coffee.
Consider 这个动词呢，就是 think about 考虑细想。那例句说Rick 在他选择任何事物之前呢，都仔细考虑。那回到文章里头呢，这边说到当你将这些这么棒的景点都考虑进去之后，你会发现胡志明市呢是一个适合大家造访的城市。I agree with that. I can't wait to go back to Ho Chi Minh City.
There you go. So the one person's going back. I think I might be going for the first time. And it says keep these places in mind for an exciting future trip there. To keep something in mind is basically to remember, right?
也就是牢记某事的意思啦。记好这些地方，未来就到那边来个刺激的旅行吧。After our 2-day article, do you want to have a trip in Ho Chi Minh City? And I guess you said yes, right?
I would, yeah. It sounds really, really interesting. I just wonder, what's the best time to go for the weather?
Summer?
Summer? Be quite hot, but I guess not too different from Taipei.
Right.
Yeah, but in the winter might be cool, but maybe a little bit rainy. But really, any time is a good time for Ho Chi Minh City. Just, maybe take an umbrella if it's going to rain a lot. All right, it's Magic Box time, and then we'll be back for our review.
Magic Box 找亮点。
嗨，大家好，我是 Casey。相信大家都知道记得的英文该怎么说，没错，就是 remember。但除了 remember 这初级的用法之外，我们也来学学其他表示记得的片语吧。第一个呢，就是在文章里面出现过的 keep somebody or something in mind。从字面上来看 keep in mind 有种把事情东西放在心上的意思，衍生出来的用法呢，就是牢记在心的意思啦。你可以说This formula is really important. We need to keep it in mind. 这公式超重要的，我们得把它牢记在心。另外呢，跟 keep something in mind 很类似的用法是 bear something in mind。这两个片语完全可以通用哦。所以刚刚那一句话呢，我们也可以这样说 This formula is really important. We need to bear it in mind. 说到这边，我们也可以学学跟忘记有关的片语啦。我们平常都会用 forget 来表示忘记，那你也可以把这片语学起来哦。Slip somebody's mind 意思上呢，就是划过我的记忆了，衍生就是忘记了的意思。Slip somebody's mind 通常呢会用在一些比较琐碎的小事上面，用来指之前忘记某件事，但现在想起来了。你可以说 It slipped my mind to return these books to the library。我忘记把这几本书还给图书馆了。学会这么多用法，现在就来考考你啦。要怎么用英文说以下这句话呢？我们应该把老师的建议铭记在心。有两种说法哦，我休息一下，答案马上揭晓。The answer is, we should keep the teacher's advice in mind. 或者是 we should bear the teacher's advice in mind. 你答对了吗
？Wait for it. It's review time. 复习时间到喽。
All right, so for our wrap-up, to look at our four word power words that we learned today, we have a synonym game. What's a synonym? Basically, a synonym is a word that means pretty much the same kind of thing.
所以呢，我们今天要找的就是同义字。等一下麦克会给我一些同义字，然后呢，我要猜出他讲的是我们今天的哪一个重要单字呢？
Okay, so listen carefully. I'm going to be using words that are similar to the word power words we had today. The first word that you're going to guess, these are the synonyms I'm going to give you. Horrible, awful, really, really bad, horrendous.
好糟糕，糟糕成这个样子，那就是很可怕的意思咯，就是 terrible.
Terrible, right? Horrible, terrible, awful, just something that's no good at all. All right, good one. Next one. Ooh, we have 3 other words. What am I going to give you? All right, this one, I don't know if I can think of a lot of synonyms, but there are a few. Think,
想
mull, ponder, reflect on.
I know which one you're talking about.
Okay.
Consider.
Consider, yeah, to consider, to think about something, to mull. Mull, M-U-L-L, that's kind of a fancy word. I'm going to mull my options. I'm going to think about my options. And I also said ponder. To ponder is also to think, P-O-N-D-E-R. Good job. All right, so there's 2 down. Let's do one more. Ooh, these are tough. The other 2 words, I don't know if I can think of a lot of synonyms. Okay, collection.
Collection? 收藏品
Archive.
Ooh, give me one more.
I can't think of one more. I'm running
Okay,
out of
let me guess.
ideas.
You're talking about the word museum.
A museum.
Are
right?
you?
A museum, yeah. It's a collection of things. An archive is kind of like a museum. An archive would be like a museum, but for documents and pictures and things like that. But basically, places that they collect old and important things so that people can come and study and see and learn from them. So there you go. Very useful, very handy, very interesting. Just like Ho Chi Minh City. I don't know if it's useful and handy, but it's very interesting. And so maybe one day if you guys visit, you'll see Elsie and I walking down the street, going to cafes, visiting tall buildings, and considering history. All right, guys. Take care. We'll see you very soon. Until then, bye-bye.
Bye.
Plan a fun trip to Ho Chi Minh City.
Bin Tay Market. You can find anything from cute clothes to delicious food here. It also has better prices than the city's other popular markets. Visit it for a cool local experience. War Remnants Museum. This history museum has exhibits on Vietnam's wars with America and France. There are military planes and many photos here. Some of the photos show the terrible effects of Agent Orange. The museum hopes to open people's eyes to the horrors of war. When you consider these great places, you realize Ho Chi Minh City is a great city for everyone to visit. Keep these places in mind for an exciting future trip there.
Price. Price. The price of this bottle of water is 20 NT dollars. The price of this bottle of water is 20 NT dollars. Museum. Museum. The big museum has a lot of famous paintings. The big museum has a lot of famous paintings. Terrible. Terrible. On my way to school this morning, I saw a terrible car accident. On my way to school this morning, I saw a terrible car accident. Consider. Consider. Rick considers things carefully before he chooses anything. Rick considers things carefully before he chooses anything.